This last reading, is about a gentleman amongst our midst, Eric Epstein. Born August 13, 1946, I almost said 1846, 1946 in Laconia, New Hampshire. Moved around often with his family early on, but grew up in Milwaukee. He played music professionally from the age of 18 until he was in his mid-30s. Professional gigs were sporadic at first. Then between the ages of 22 and 30, he was engaged full-time as a musician. As he entered his 30s, however, he turned his attention to bird study and ecology. Armed with a degree in biological aspects of conservation from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, he entered the Wisconsin DNR workforce as a research scientist in 1980. Then in 1985, he became the ecologist for the DNR's Bureau of Endangered Resources and spent the next 3 decades surveying, evaluating, and recommending areas of the state for long-term conservation and management. He retired in 2011. Eric became well known among Wisconsin conservationists and biologists for his unparalleled and detailed understanding of Wisconsin's natural history. This understanding is evident and on full display in a masterful compendium describing Wisconsin's 16 ecological landscapes, written as an online publication when it became 2,000 pages long for the Wisconsin DNR, with co-authors from the department's interdisciplinary ecosystem management planning team, particularly founding member and team member and leader Gerald Bartelt. Their prodigious work is titled The Ecological Landscapes of Wisconsin, an assessment of ecological resources and a guide to planning sustainable management. I've always felt that if you kept your eyes and ears open, you would learn something potentially astonishing every day. I had a job that was not like any other. I think it was the best job in the department, and maybe the only one for which I was suited. But it did require spending almost all of my time alone in nature, almost always. Each part of the state offers something quite different at varying scales, with some experiences that cover and are embedded within broad themes, and others that are up close and personal. Some of those unique experiences were fleeting and ephemeral, never to be repeated. Decades ago, I was on Long Island in the Apostle Islands, and I had been staying in the old Sivertson cabin. One morning before dawn, I walked to the scent cut, which, as you know, Sumner, is a fair piece of walking in deep sand. During years when water levels are high, you'd often be walking in the lake. At the time, the sand cut is still very open and sparsely vegetated. I think it's a low water year. And in addition, the seiche is out. On the Chequamegon Bay side of the island, there's a small lagoon, partially enclosed by 2 curving sandy horns. I sit there waiting for the sun to come up. Then, just before sunrise, a flock of marbled godwits flies in and drops into the lagoon not far from where I am sitting. Then, for just a moment after they land, the birds lift their wings simultaneously, just as the sun appears, as the first rays of the sun come across Chequamegon Bay. As the rays shine through their wings, the most incredible cinnamon gold colors I've ever seen. But it lasts only for an instant. The sandspit and bay are in the foreground, and Oak Point is in the background. Never have I seen anything like it, and the scene with its perfect timing and lighting is just stunning. a stunning and indelible vision. I hope you all can picture that in your mind. Sometimes what you think you might see, or hope you might see but don't, happens when there's a disruption caused by our presence on the landscape. It's almost as if there's a palpable interference that keeps you from connecting in some meaningful way. I've had a couple of things happen, one of which I attribute to hypothermia. One June morning, when the air temperature was less than 40 degrees, ornithologist and friend Joan Elias and I threw a canoe into the Bad River. We were going to do breeding bird surveys in two separate areas north of Highway 2. And the way we decided to cover the most ground was for her to drop me off, and then I would follow a compass line through the vast wetlands and hopefully meet her hours later at a prearranged spot on a topographic map. She would go survey another portion of this huge sedge meadow and marsh, and we would attempt to convene at the prearranged place and time. So we reached the point where we agreed to split up. Joan drops me off, goes paddling off into the mist, and disappears from view. It's 40 degrees. It's uncomfortable. In my shoes, Chuck Taylor high tops, and socks are already soaked. I take 3 steps and immediately fall face first into a pool. I'm soaked from head to toe. Did I mention that it's 40 degrees? So that is not optimal. That is suboptimal. And I think, well, at least I am tired. Maybe the discomfort will keep me awake and thinking about other things real hard, so I don't have to dwell on the miserable conditions I've chosen to work under in this chapter of my life. So I'm taking breeding bird survey points all along a compass line that's semi-randomized, a pretty good soundly designed survey. I'm amazed at how many second-year male redstarts there are out there in the alder, and even in stands of small tamarack. It's second-year male redstarts galore, scores of them. I go on for a while, and I come to a channel shrouded in swirling mists. I see a figure that looks vaguely human. At first, I'm kind of startled because who the hell is going to be out here in the middle of the night? It's probably 5 in the morning by then, maybe 5:30, but it's dark, misty, cold, and windy. So I see this human figure. He's bent over and can't be harvesting rice because you don't harvest rice, wild rice in June. But he's in a rice bed, looking down at the rice, doing something, and never looking up at me. I decide to try to get closer, to see who I am seeing out here. And the point comes where I am probably within 30 feet of the individual, who is separated from me by this deep channel of moving water. I can clearly see him in a Ojibwe, still bent over and intent on doing something. I can see facial features, high cheekbones, straight black hair, and clothes a lumberjack might have worn 100 years ago. Heavy plaid shirt and baggy slacks. Then, what I don't expect actually happens. All of a sudden, he starts receding. He just vaporized. Really eerie. I'm not frightened, but think, what am I seeing here? I am beyond the point of being highly functional. I had fallen into really cold water, and am probably not terribly astute or otherwise functional. I go on automatic pilot and somehow end up about where I said I was going to be. And after a bit, Joan comes up paddling, probably between 7 and 8. A short time later, botanists Jim Meeker and Emmett Jadewitz pull up in a John boat with a small outboard so we can do some vegetation sampling a mile or two further on, around Honest John Lake near Lake Superior. We spend the day out there, but I don't tell anyone about the incident with the phantom Ojibwe in the rice beds because I thought I must have been hallucinating. Maybe I was, or maybe that's literally what happened. But why that vision in that place? Although it seemed appropriate, it did seem like a time warpage of some sort. Like this individual belonged there and had always been there, but wasn't quite corporeal. Was it just hypothermia? I looked semi-normal in retrospect. And then this last reading involves Eric and Mike Mossman behind me. This is a short anecdote. Occasionally you bump into someone who you feel is a kindred spirit, even in the middle of nowhere. I ran into ornithologist Mike Mossman in Florence County. We'd both been in the field, the Barrens, for several days straight. We had both been doing various kinds of biological survey work in the 3 big barrens and bracken grassland areas out there on either side of the Pine River. So we conspired to explore the possibilities of collaborating, enabling us to cover more ground. But we also decided to have a real dinner. And there are not a lot of options in Florence County. But one or both of us remembered an Italian restaurant in Florence that was pretty good. So we're in this dimly lit Italian supper club, and the waitress is bringing us more and more drinks. And we're waiting for a couple of pizzas. Then I notice that our tablecloth appears to be, quote unquote, animated, which in fact turns out to be the case. Now, the northeastern Wisconsin Barrens and bracken grasslands are one of the state's tick hotspots. Mike and I are shedding ticks like crazy. There are scores of the fearsome beasts, wood ticks fortunately, and they are crawling all over us and everything around us. I start to see people at nearby tables looking sideways at us. I feel this movement on my head, and I'm looking at these 8-legged vermin crawling all over our table. I see that the arrival of our pizzas is imminent. I'm looking around, and here's a nice jar of red pepper flakes. In a dimly lit room, those flakes look a lot like ticks. But I want to deal with this dangerous animal at large problem before dinner, not afterwards, when I would have to wonder what it was that I was ingesting. So I stab one with my buck knife, and it becomes a parlor game. Did you ever see the Polish flick Knife in the Water? There's an amazing scene with a knife that was a prize in the spooky film Aliens by the Android. It's kind of remarkable, and here in the Italian Supper Club, it almost goes like that. One of those days when my hand-eye coordination is good, and I am locked in on the task at hand. I am just slicing the things up left and right. I see the waitress staring at us as she walks by, and she starts laughing. She knew what was happening, and she says, "Good, good, keep it up, don't stop." So, short story long, eventually the problem seems to be at a manageable level, and our pizzas arrive. And we lived happily ever after to talk about it. I'm not sure I've been back to Florence County since then. I guess I have. And of course, as always, it was worth it.
Oh, the pigs of Jackson County are a wild and hardy breed. They thrive amid the hills and swamps and ditches. Their one desire in life is blood, and yours they'll often get, for they're stealthy, mean, tenacious sons of bitches. So pass the flashlight to me, dear. I think I feel one creeping up my leg beneath my long johns, and I swear that before the night is over, there'll be little ticks a-weeping, for their parents cruelly slain amidst my hair. Do not think you can remove them with a gentle little brush off. They will treat you with contempt and keep on feeding. Only when you make their shells crack can you rest content and lay back, knowing you have done to them what they are needing. So pass the flashlight to me, dear. I think I feel one creeping up my leg beneath my long johns, and I swear that before the night is over, there'll be little ticks a-weeping, for their parents cruelly slain amidst my hair. Late at night while you lay sleeping by the fireside wrapped in dreams, they will come and seek your tender hidden places, and commence to drain your juices, while the moon shines through the spruces, till you wake despoiled and scratching at their traces. So pass the flashlight to me, dear. I think I feel one creeping up my leg beneath my long johns, and I swear that before the night is over, there'll be little ticks a-weeping, for their parents cruelly slain amidst my hair. So beware these armored villains when you travel in that region, and prepare yourself for battle grim and gory. They will offer you no quarter, you must deal with them the same, should you find that they have chosen you their quarry. So pass the flashlight to me, dear. I think I feel one creeping up my leg beneath my long johns, and I swear that before the night is over, there'll be little ticks a-weeping, for their parents cruelly slain amidst my hair. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for coming.